It was Saturday, and Pastor David, his wife, Rose, and some of the elders of the church that Pastor David and his wife had invited to the funeral of Mr. Barron, arrived at the graveyard where he was to be buried that morning. Jeff Barron had called the pastor on Wednesday, just after the Bible study, to let him know that the funeral was scheduled for Saturday and that he would be expected to conduct it. Pastor David had heard so much from most of the people who had been attending the Bible study, commending his teachings and the fact that they were right on point. They also shared the relevance of the teaching in their day-to-day lives. Charles was in church with Becky the following morning and had confided in him after the devotion about the situation that led to his quitting his job. He never with the agenda to make sure the New World Order becomes a reality through the vehicle of democracy, an agenda they are ready to push by all means, and how countries that refuse to embrace democracy would be made unstable, through war, terrorism, hunger, and political instability until their people cry for change. Pastor David had also received calls from people he had yet to meet, telling him how his message was making an impact in their lives, but there was also a call from someone warning him of the lines of his teachings who threatened him to stop or end up 6 feet below the ground. Pastor David had shared with his wife Rose and the rest of the team, who had spent the bulk of their time praying and searching the scriptures regarding protection. He remembered Satan looking sternly at him in that vision, saying, "I will see to it that you are destroyed. You are after my kingdom, but you shall not succeed." Pastor David had always known since he began to do what God asked him, life was not going to be easy for him, but he trusted God who commissioned him, and had drawn strength from his last words to him before he came back to his body. "Go, my son, and prepare my people. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every mouth that rise against you in judgment is destroyed already. Go." Pastor David looked around him and felt strange. Could he be nursing fear? He thought. He had been skeptical of the crowd since that call, but he had gone beyond avoiding the crowd. The church is growing at an alarming rate, and he hardly knows most of the faces, a situation that is also becoming a thing of concern to the church elders who feel that their pastor is being taken by the newcomers. He could see the look of jealousy in most of their eyes, especially when they meet him counseling new people and they find it difficult to have the usual time with him. "Pastor David, can you take over the microphone now?" Jeff called out to him while he was in deep thought. He looked around and saw faces that he could not place apart from the children of the deceased. "Okay. Thank you," he said, taking the microphone from Jeff, clearing his throat, and beginning with greetings. He had spent time in God's presence all night for guidance on what to do, and he strongly felt the need to use the occasion to win the lost. "Good morning, everyone," he said, and looked around again. "Good morning, Pastor," was chorused from the crowd. "We are gathered today to pay our last respect to our father, grandfather, uncle, colleague, and friend, and of course a gallant veteran," he said, lifting up his eyes again to be sure every relationship was covered. It was written in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 4 from verse 1 to 3, "So I returned, and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. And behold, the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Wherefore I praised the dead who are already dead more than the living who are yet alive. Yea, better is he than both they, which hath not yet been, who hath not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. As it is written, we are here to witness the bitterness of cruelty and oppression." Mr. Barron died fighting for justice. He died fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. He died just like Jesus, who did not die for his own sin, but for the sin of the world. Mr. Barron has finished his own race, but where will you be after leaving this wicked world? Will you be with the Lord or with Satan in hell? It is important to be sure, because the debt of sin had been paid over 2,000 years ago. Men have no more excuse. As we are gathered today, I want to allow someone who wants to be sure of his or her life to say the sinner's prayer. This might not be what you expect, but I don't think anything can make Mr. Barron any happier than a soul saved at his funeral. Pastor David made it simple and direct, but the effect was strong as many responded to the call for salvation, praying aloud after him. On their way back to the church, Pastor David noticed a black car that followed them from the graveyard until they were about to turn onto the street of the church. Then they drove parallel to his car, rolled down the tinted window glass. The man seated in the front looked at him through his dark glasses for a while and rolled off the glass and drove off. "What do you think they are up to?" Rose asked as they turned onto their street. "I don't know, but one thing I know is that the Lord is my shepherd and he shall guide us through the valley of the shadow of death and we shall fear no evil," Pastor David said, trying to conceal his fear and shaky hands as he gripped the steering tighter.